Hey everybody, it's Alan here again for another episode of Empowered Money. This one is a special one to me. We were focusing in on Women's History Month and women with financial planning. And gosh, I love it when the women takes charge of the financial planning. Everything just goes so much smoother. It's like they're more organized. They actually do what they're supposed to do. They're willing to ask for directions. It's amazing, right? So I've really been able to build my practice because of women making progress in two areas, income and also on really taking charge of the family finances here, because they are just better than men are at it. They just are, right? And so for so long, we've been having the patriarchy manage the finances, women managing the household, right? And the truth is, I'm talking about a traditional marriage here. Obviously, when we have two women that we're planning with, it's unbelievable how efficient that plan gets done, right? We don't even have to wait for the man to get his butt in gear, right? So, anyways, I am excited to do this podcast here to talk about the progress that women have made in the financial world here. We are also going to talk a little bit about the challenges that they are still facing and that they will continue to face. We just need to be aware of those challenges, right? So, what I'd like to do actually is I want to start off with some quirky facts here to get us started here. I want to read just a few facts here, and then we're going to dive on in about the progress that women have made in financial planning. So the first one, I think most people realize this, but women tend to live about 5 years longer than men. Right. And so that means that women are smarter than men. I don't know why they live longer than us, but probably because you take better care of yourself. That would be my guess. Right. So, but anyways, women live 5 years longer than men. What does that mean? That means that they've got to plan for 5 years further, right? And that means more stress to the financial plan. Hey, if I've only got to plan until age 85, but my wife has to plan until age 90 here, it means we have to have enough money left behind after me so that she can still carry on her lifestyle, right? So women tend to live about 5 years longer than men. We need to keep that in mind when we're doing financial planning there. Oftentimes we forget about that. And I'll also say this. That also leads to an increased long-term care risk, right? So when we're talking about long-term care, needing help with the nursing home, needing in-home care, right? The biggest scare is that our body's still healthy, but our mind is not. That cognitive risk there with dementia or Alzheimer's, and it's much higher and more prevalent in women because they live longer, right? Us men, we just die of heart attacks, right? So now we do. Us men still have a long-term care risk, no doubt, but it is shorter and less likely than women there. So we got to keep that in mind. The longevity factor here, we need to have money for 5 more years, but we also might need to have money set aside for extra care there, right? So that's one fun thing, right? The next fun thing is obviously the pink tax. Everybody's heard of the pink tax, right? Women on average, women pay about 7% more for everyday products like razors, deodorants, and clothes and things like that, right? But let's go just a step further here. When I'm speaking to particularly single women, and let's say they're looking for an apartment building, well, they can't get the ground level floor of the apartment building, right? They've got to get. There's a safety risk right there. A frat boy out of college might be willing to take that apartment for a couple $100 less, but realistically, women are going to feel a lot more safer, being on one of the top levels right there, where there's less access there, and so there's things that are just inherently more expensive, and I don't see that changing. But on the other hand, I'm hoping that this pink tax will shrink over time here as people become more aware of that, right? Now, okay, those are two really not fun facts to start this podcast. So if I've lost you, I apologize. But let's get to something fun here. Women are better investors than men. They don't know it. They're better investors than men. Okay. So despite being more cautious, studies show that women actually outperform men in investing by about 0.4% annually. That's actually statistically significant right there. Why? They trade less frequently, meaning they avoid unnecessary risk and fees, yet women still feel less confident about their investing skills. Here's what I'm going to boil this down to. All right. They trade less frequently. Why? Because men, for some reason, have this problem of gambling right now. My gosh, the amount of gamblers that are going on sports betting and things of that nature is asinine. And before that was legal, and in Georgia it's still not legal, right? But before that was legal, it was almost like the stock market was a legal gambling trade for some men that love to do day trading with individual stocks, right? So yeah, if you just leave it alone, it's going to do better. it's going to do better. Let the market do its thing. And so women have been, maybe a little bit more passive in their investments. And it turns out that that's actually going to help them in the long run there. So congratulations. If you're a woman out there, you are a better investor. If you're a man, listen to this and say, okay, what are they doing better than I do? Truth is they're doing less, right? Kind of like that scene from Forgetting Sarah Marshall where they're trying to learn how to surf. Do less, right? You got to do more than nothing, but maybe less than what you are doing. Right. So, anyways, that's a really cool fact about women. They are better investors. Financial advice gap. Here's another one. A new study found that nearly 70% of women feel misunderstood by their financial advisors. Many say their advisors assume their male partners handle the money, even when the woman is a primary breadwinner. Right. I will be the first to tell you when I'm sitting down with a husband and wife, I am talking to the woman of the relationship. I know where the decisions are made. I grew up in a household where my mom made the final decisions, right? My dad may have brought the ideas, who knows? He may have done some research, but at the end of the day, we were going to do what my mom wanted to do. Right. And I still believe that most households are run that way, right? That the women have the final say in the matter if they want to. Right. A lot of women might say, you know what, I don't quite care about this stuff. I don't quite care about financial planning or investing, and that's totally fine. I get that. I see, my wife right now is fully embraced in her career and raising a daughter, I'm raising the daughter as well, right? But she just loves that so much that, whether we have an 80-20 portfolio or a 60-40 portfolio may not interest her all that much, right? But that being said, when I'm working with a couple, I know that I've got to sell the wife of the relationship on that, right? Once again, talking about a traditional marriage here, the wife of the relationship on that. And so, because at the end of the day, she's going to be making the final decisions on there. So, a lot of financial advisors don't get that. Why is that? Well, if you look at my parents' generation, the baby boomer generation, okay, in general, traditionally, the man of the relationship handles the money, not all the time, but traditionally, on average, more often than not, right? And so when we are looking at, a lot of financial advisors are kind of stuck in the past on that, or maybe they're working with a lot of older retirees because that's in general where financial advisors go to find clients because that's where the money is, right? So maybe they're just working so much with them that they're just assuming that the men are in charge of the finances. Once again, I'm not finding that. I'm finding that the women very much want to be involved. They do want to be in control of that. And I'm finding that when they are in control, things work better. They go smoother, they go quicker, we get things done more often, they're more organized, right? And so I guarantee you, if we meet, I am not going to ignore you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to know who is number one in the house, right? Um, another quick tip, all right? The wealth building power of divorce. Okay. So here's a weird one. Divorced women are statistically more likely to engage in proactive financial planning than their married counterparts or formerly married counterparts, right? Largely because handling finances on their own often empowers them to take full control of their money. So I love this, right? And so we work a ton with widows and divorcees. Okay. Widows and divorcees. All right. And it is such a different dynamic between those two. Okay. So on the divorcees, we've got somebody, I mean, frankly, who's pissed off. They got fire breathing from their mouths, right? And they want to show their ex-partner that they can do this on their own and they can do it better, right? On the other hand, we get divorcees who are not pissed off. They're very sad, very upset, right? And they're very overwhelmed because they are being thrown into a role that even if they were originally in charge of, they used to at least have a partner to run things by, right? And this is why I love working with women. There's no machoism about this. There's no pride at the door. They show up, they say, you know what? We think that you can help us get us to where we want to go a little bit quicker, a little bit more cost efficiently, and a little bit more tax advantagely than I would on my own. So I am going to stop and I'm going to ask for directions, right? The old stereotype. Men don't ask for directions, women do, right? Same exact thing happens with financial planning. Right now, whether you're a man or you're a woman, you really do need somebody to bounce ideas off of. You need somebody to verify that your thinking is you're thinking about things appropriately here, right? So having a partner on your side is really helpful when you're going at this alone, right? So when we're working with a divorcee who's frankly fired up to do better than their ex-partner, or when we're working with a widow who's just distraught here, and all of a sudden, not only does she have all these emotions going on, but also she's got to handle these finances here. That's where a financial planner can really come in handy right there. And women are more likely to ask for help than men in that field. Also, last little side note here. So the first female stockbroker was kept a secret. Her name was Victoria Woodhull in 1870. She was the first woman to open a brokerage firm. Okay. And that was back in 1870, decades before women could even vote, right? Kind of a fun fact. She was also a psychic medium on the side, right? So I don't know if you have many psychic mediums, stock pickers out there. And if so, I would like to see their performance over time, because then I can know whether or not the psychic medium stuff is actually working out too, right? You'd think that they would go hand in hand, right? So anyways, that is just some interesting facts about women and financial planning, right? So I also want to point out some really encouraging news. So let's look at some exciting statistics here, right? Recent studies show that nearly 67% of women now actively manage their finances, and that is up from just 50% a decade ago. That is astronomical. Okay. We're having a 32% increase overall over the last, 10 years. Unbelievable right there. So it went from 50% to 67% right there. Man, that's fantastic, right? I love seeing that. So another powerful statistic here is that in 2024, women in the U.S. earn 84 cents for every dollar a man made. We're not there yet. We've got a wage gap, right? But that's a huge improvement from previous years. Okay. And women aged 25 to 34 here are closing the gap even faster. They're earning about 92% on the dollar, right? Now, listen, I'm reading this off as if that's good news and that's exciting news, but if you're a woman, you should be pissed right now, right? We know who runs the show here. We know that, us men wouldn't know what foot to put forward first if we didn't have you in the office telling us exactly what to do, right? So we're going to close that gap over time here, and it's closing very quickly. 92 cents on the dollar. For ages 25 through 34. It should be very encouraging here. Obviously, we're not going to stop until we get above a full dollar, because we know how talented y'all are. So, also, when it comes to savings, women are stepping up here. 56% of women increased their retirement savings contribution in the last year. Right. That's rather nice, right? We already talked about this. Women outperform investing about 0.4% annually. And so that's great. Let's see. So still some challenges that women are facing in the financial planning world. We still have that pay gap, right? So what happens is with that pay gap over time, that does really compound. And National Institute on Retirement Security found that women have about 30% less retirement income than men on here. All right. And then we have these career breaks that women typically take, what we call the power pause right now. The power pause, right? So many women often take time off for caregiving, whether it's older parents, whether it's children, you name it, right? And that can really interrupt their career trajectory. It could also maybe it can cause them not to get a promotion here. I know vividly when we were planning Allison's career, my wife's career, we had a decision whether or not to go get a CPA license. And the schooling for it was just brutal. It was like a 45-minute drive. It's 5 hours a night, 4 nights a week for an entire year. And honestly, we did not know if she was going to continue to work after we had children. Now, what we didn't know is how long it was going to take us to have children. And then we had children. We have children. She's still working, right? So I think going back, we probably would have made a little bit different decision. That being said, that thought really caused us, I think, to not go pursue that CPA or that MBA or things of that nature, right? So it's not even the power pause; it's maybe even the preparation for that power pause that's coming up, right? And then obviously, once we have children, women are so much better at running the house than men, right? So a lot of those duties fall on them, and maybe they don't want to take that next promotion. Right? If you were to ask my wife right now for a promotion, she'd tell you to pound sand. Right? She loves where she's at. She loves the job that she's doing. She's helping she's helping raise her daughter. She don't want anything that's going to take her away from her kids right now. Right? So obviously we do have those pauses right there, the preparation for the pause, the actual pause, maybe even the return from the pause. And that could really limit career advancement on there. Obviously, y'all, we're talking in generalities, we're talking in averages here. There are some powerful women with some really good careers out there, right? I will say this, all my moms that have really good careers it's very challenging, right? My hat goes off to if you're a mom with a career, my goodness, great for you here. And I've had a lot of my moms tell me like, Alan, I feel like I'm doing a C+ job at being a mom and being at a career, and I'm not doing an A+ job at anything. And that gnaws at you after a while. That really eats away at you after a while. So I realize in today's inflationary world where it's expensive as heck, where women are frankly a lot of times starting to earn more money than men, is what I'm finding. When we have these situations, it's really hard for the mom to stay at home right now. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about this power pause and when it makes sense and when it doesn't. All right. So when we look at the cost of daycare right now, here in Atlanta, we're, above $2,000 a month for daycare. All right. Now remember, that's after tax dollars. So maybe that costs you $36,000 of income to be able to pay $24,000 of daycare. Probably a little bit more. Maybe $40,000 of your income going to one child for daycare. Right. Now, and I'm going to let's go general neutral on this. Let's say that one spouse makes $45,000 a year of income. All right, well, shoot. After taxes and after daycare, it might make sense to stay home, which is why you see a lot of teachers start to stay home because I think they've gotten a little bit of a raise since then, but they're right around that 45, 60 right there. So sometimes it makes sense for them to stay home, right? Particularly all of a sudden, hey, what if we have two children? Well, now all of a sudden it's 80 grand, right? We have two kids in daycare, 2 grand a month. It's 80 grand before taxes, right? Well, now all of a sudden, okay, that's a lot more people, right? All of a sudden, if you're making even $100,000, maybe we do take a little bit of a pay dip so you could be at home, right? Now, the challenge is okay, what happens if we're making a $1.25, $1.50, $200,000? Maybe we're the breadwinner, right? Now all of a sudden it's getting a lot tougher to stay at home. And now all of a sudden we've got to manage daycare, maybe a nanny, and our work and after school events, right? And it's a really hard challenge. But what's great is women in general are really good multitaskers, much better than us men that are, I think, just biologically, wired to focus in on one thing at a time. And so they're able to juggle a lot. But man, my hat goes off to them how stressful that must be, right? So that's a little bit about the power pause right there. So far we've talked about how life is more expensive for women, and we've talked about how that wage gap is closing, but it's still there, and it might be because of these pauses that sometimes we take or women take during their careers, right? Maybe the preparation for it, maybe the actual pause, maybe coming back from that pause, right? Okay, so what does this mean for financial planning? I'm going to repeat this, the reason I love working with women on financial planning is that they are proactive, they ask for advice, they take advice, they act on that advice here, and they know the challenges that they are facing. They are wanting to save as much money as possible, take control of their future, feel financially empowered here, and are willing to, once again, seek out a financial planner to help them do that. Right. So where do I think this is heading? I don't think this is heading. This is where I know it's heading. It's only a matter of time until women are the financial breadwinners of this world. When you look at the statistics of how fewer men are graduating from high school and the drastic percentage drop in men going to college, what you are going to find is that women are going to start taking over the higher paying salary jobs here. And they are going to be the CEOs, CFOs. They are already there, but we're going to see them at a lot higher percentage here in the future. All right. So I think who run the world? Girls run the world, right? And I think in the future, we're going to see that not only are they running households, they're also running corporations at a much higher clip here, and they're going to be the breadwinners. I would say with our younger clients, it's probably about 50-50. About 50% of the men make more, 50% of the women make more in each household, right? So it's very evenly split right there, okay? And we are going to see that trajectory expand over time. Now, that does cause a problem. It causes a problem because all of a sudden, if we're in a traditional relationship, our dating pool is shrinking. The amount of men that graduate high school is going down. The amount of men graduating college is going down. The amount of men making over six figures may not be decreasing, but the earning potential is going down overall, right? And so what we're finding is that if you're a single woman out there in the dating pool, it's really hard right now. It's really hard. I made a joke the other day. If I was single, I would just create a Tinder profile that says, I hate gambling and I don't golf that much, but I really like to cook. And I feel like if I just mentioned those three things, maybe I would stand out. Now, I don't know if I get chosen because I'm only 5'9", and I think, the new rule is you got to be 6'2" to swipe right on this thing or whatever, right? So maybe I'd be overlooked, who knows? But that being said, right, we're finding these challenges with younger men that they are graduating college less, they're gambling a lot more, their promotions are getting a lot less, and frankly, they're feeling a little disenfranchised right now. And maybe that actually showed up in the past election that we had, which there was a clear delineation within the younger generations of how women voted and how men voted on average, right? And so there is challenges with this. Yes, women are making amazing strides. As a matter of fact, I think that they're going to lap men in the future here. However, the challenge there is, okay, that's showing up in the men are feeling disenfranchised. That's showing up in the voting booth, right? Our dating pools are shrinking right now, right? And so there's a lot of challenges that are coming with this. But in general, that's the man's, it is the man's problem, but it's actually kind of all of our problems, right? Women have to keep on doing what they're doing, right? As a matter of fact, men are going to make less going forward. Women have to step up even more, right? And so, from a financial planning perspective, obviously, this is really good for women. On the other hand, I do want to let you know there are some challenges that are going on here. So, anyways, this podcast, once again, is there to show my appreciation for everything that the women in our life are doing. My mom was such a strong influence on me growing up here. My wife is such the rock of our house. My daughter, I cannot wait to see the person that she's going to become. And so I'm absolutely thrilled about the strides that women are making, and let's keep on making them. Thanks so much for listening today. I hope that you took some things away from there and found this a little bit entertaining. And I appreciate each and every single one of you.